Hi, I'm Stephanie. I'm going to unpacking the standard for Module 6, Unit 1, Activity 1. In my school, I'm using National Core Art Standards for visual art. The set of art standards includes the artistic processes of creating, presenting, responding, and connecting. Each artistic process branches into 2 to 3 anchor standards. The anchor standards describe the general knowledge and skill that teachers expect students to demonstrate throughout their education in art. Performing standards are discipline specific, grade by grade from pre-K to grade 8 and at 3 proficiency level in high school. And they translate the anchor standards into specific measurable learning goals. And today I'm going to choose 3 performing standards for my next unit. 1 art standard from creating and 2 standard from responding. Take a look at my performing standard for creating. Explore and invent art-making techniques and approaches. The words are in black, they are my verbs. The words in red are my nouns. So in this case, explore and invent are the verbs. Art-making techniques and approaches are the nouns. The nouns are the concepts that I need my student to know. So student will be able to use the skills for the following art concept like art-making approaches, materials, media, and tools. And the skills I want my students to have, to be able to do, are they will be able to develop or create, experiment, explore, and invent. The enduring understanding is making art promotes experimentation and develops problem-solving skill. And the essential questions are: how do artists and designers determine whether a particular direction in their work is effective? And how do artists and designers learn from trial and error? Now take a look at another performance standards for responding. Compare responses to a work of art before and after working in a similar media. So my verbs are compare and working. And my nouns are responses, work of art, and media. So in the concept that I want my students to be able to know are understanding and appreciation of art through self, others, and the natural world. The skills that I want my students will be able to do are analyzed, perceived, relating, and reflecting. The enduring understandings is creating, relating, and reflecting on art encourages art appreciation as well as brain development. The essential questions are: what can we learn from our responses to our art? And how do life experiences influence the way you relate to art? My third standard is apply one set of criteria to evaluate more than one work of art. My verbs are apply and evaluate. Nouns are criteria and work of art. So the concept that I want my students to be able to understand and use the various criteria for art evaluations. The criteria like art styles, genres, and media. And the skills that I want my students will be able to apply a set of criteria for art evaluations. The enduring understanding is critical thinking skills and self-evaluate can be improved by developing a set of criteria to evaluate art. Essential questions are: how does one determine criteria to evaluate a work of art? And how is a person's preference different from an evaluation? My art unit is exploring mixed media. So I have to plan two lessons for experimentation of mixed media. And the description of my lessons is experiment and explore various media, mediums, tools, and art approaches to create mixed media art. The learning objective is students will be able to experiment and explore various art approaches of mixed media art. And I have to plan this into 2 lessons for my activities because of the time constraint. I only have 40 minutes for one period. So students have to explore the art for 6 centers. They need 2 lessons for the activities. So for this activity, students will be grouping into 6 groups. The teacher is going to set up 6 centers for the students to experiment and explore 6 different art approaches for various media, medium, and tools. They will be giving 10 minutes to watch the video and explore each mixed media, and then they will move on to the next center for the next art approach of mixed media. So for Center 1, they are going to explore watercolor with crayons. Center 2, explore watercolor with salt and sugar. Center 3, explore watercolor with strings. Center 4, explore watercolor by blowing bubbles. Center 5, explore acrylic paints with comb. Center 6, explore acrylic paints with toothbrush and cotton balls. For this lesson, I'm going to use formative assessment to assess my students about their reflections, about their experiments on mixed media. So when the students are experimenting the art, I will go around to observe them and write down the name of the struggled students. So I will use the formative assessment to group my students for my next steps, such as either I need to reteach or move on. The next lesson, which is lesson 3, brainstorming the art approaches for your work of art using mixed media. So after the first lesson for students to experiment and explore on the mixed media, students will have to brainstorm and invent their own art approaches to create their mixed media work of art. And their learning objective is students will be able to develop and invent the art approach for mixed media. So for the lesson 3 activities, after I have obtained the data from the formative assessment from previous lesson, so I will group students into 6 heterogeneous group for the group discussion activity. So the group discussion includes brainstorm idea for inventing the mixed media art, list the mixed media medium, tools to perform 3 art approaches for mixed media, explain how are they going to use the mixed media art to create the work of art of their own, and then design and planning for the art project for the next lesson. Gather the art material information that they are going to create their art project, and decide their subject matter for the art project. I'm going to use 2 formative assessments for students collaborations, peer collaborations, and students brainstorming idea and design. And below are the examples of the worksheet that I'm going to give it to my student. So for lesson 4 and 5, use multiple approaches for creating mixed media. So in these 2 lessons, student needs to use their brainstorming idea design to create the work of mixed media art. The learning objective is student will be able to create their mixed media art. The student will start making their mixed media projects from their brainstorming idea and design and planning from the previous lesson. And for the assessment, I'm going to give my students self-assessments like the art rubric for the students to monitor their own work based on the expectation of the art rubric. While the student creating their art project, the next lesson will be lesson 6. They have to relate and refine the work of art with peers' feedback. In this lesson, student needs to give feedback to peers and the students will refine their artwork after the peers' feedback. So the learning objectives are student will be able to work with peers, they analyze, they're relating and reflecting appreciation of art through self, others, and the natural world, and student will be able to refine their mixed media art project after peers' feedback. So for the lesson 6 activity is student will work with peers, review and reflect each other artwork through appreciation of art. They will be giving feedback to each other for refining the artwork, and students will use the peers' feedback to refine their work of art. The assessment I'm going to use is the formative assessment. I will give them an exit ticket about the students' peer reviews and how peer reviews help them to refine their work of art. And the final lesson in this unit is develop a set of criteria to evaluate the work of art. In this lesson, student has completed the mixed media art and they are going to use a set of criteria to evaluate 2 artworks from the peers. Finally, they are going to write the artist statement about their own artwork. And the learning objectives are, students will be able to use a list of criteria like art styles, genre, and media for their art evaluation activity. And students will be able to apply a set of criteria for the art evaluation. In Lesson 7 activity, students will use a set of criteria to evaluate 2 peers' artwork and give art critique to them. And finally, they are going to write an artist statement for their mixed media art. So below are the example of art critiques worksheet and also the artist statement about their work. So the assessment is the summative assessment. I will grade student artist statement and I will use art rubric to grade on their art project. And thank you very much for watching the video.